Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of the Discord.net bot development series. In this episode, it is time to take a look into embeds. What are they, how do they work, and how do we add some themes to embeds without having to copy and paste all of our code over and over again? A bit more about that last one. What do I exactly mean with themes? Well, say you have an embed and you want to return an embed as like an error, like hey, say, well, this command was not run successfully, some issue happened. You would probably then use a red embed with an error icon to indicate something went wrong. But to copy over that embed builder over and over again, that would not be so smart. And although you might not really understand what I'm saying right now, you might be able to understand that later in this episode. Let's get started and first take a look at embeds. Now, what are embeds? If we go to Discord and we take a look in the CWE server and we head over to, for instance, information-cn, these are all embeds. They have a nice specified color on the side, they have some text, a title, a description, some fields, and within the fields, a description. These are all what we call embeds. You can send multiple in one message, as you can see over here, and they can contain a lot of information that might be useful. They're just a bit more nice than plain messages. It's why a lot of bots actually use them. Let's take a look at our code and start making our own embeds. We can make our own embed within the info command that we've been working on for a while now. Instead of using await this.reply async and then some text, let's create a new line over here and say var embed equals a new embed builder. Embed builder is a class that allows you to build a new embed by using some methods. If we go to a new line, we can say dot with, and then we're given a lot of options. We can add an offer to the embed, a color, a timestamp, a description, some fields, an image URL, a thumbnail URL, a timestamp, a title, and just a URL. These are a lot of options and they are very useful. For the information command, let's start by using a title. So we'll say with title, and now we're going to use a string, and in front of the string we'll place a $sign so we can use some inline variables, and then we'll say socket guild user dot username hashtag and then socket guild user dot discriminator. So the title of our embed will be the username and discriminator of our very user. Then what we can now do is we can add some fields to display, for instance, the ID, the name, and when the account was created. We do this not by using dot with fields, but by saying add field, which allows us to add some individual fields. First one will say ID, which will represent the ID of the user. Now we have to give a value to this field, which is going to be, of course, the ID of the user, which is socket guild user dot ID. Now, there's an optional value that you can add, which indicates whether or not this field should be in line. This means that, for instance, if we get back to the information-cn channel, here we can see that these fields are in line because the fields are aligned next to each other. These are not in line because they have been given their entire width, but these are. In total, you can have about 3 columns of inline fields, and then they will go to the next row where you can again have 3 columns of fields. If we head back to our code, we can then say, well, do we want this field to be in line? Yeah, let's do that. So we'll say true. Then we add another field, which will be representing the name of the user. So we'll use name, and then we're going to use a string, $sign at the start, and then we can just simply copy paste the value that we have over here. And we again choose to make this field in line by saying true. Finally, we add the created at date, which is going to be socket guild user dot created at, and then we can again decide whether or not we want this field to be in line. We'll say true. Now, you can't just send a raw embed builder to a channel. For that, you need an actual embed. And to get an actual embed, all you have to run is .build, which is the final method that grabs all of the information that you've just passed to the class, builds it, and then returns an embed. Now, what we can do is we can get rid of all of the stuff that we have in here. We say embed, colon, and then we provide the embed that we have just made over here. Let's give it a try. We run our bot and wait a few seconds for it to launch. Then we head over to Discord, go to the Watermelon testing server, and we run the info command. As you can see, the title is over here, and then we have 3 fields. One giving the ID of the user, the name and discriminator, which we also of course have here, and when the account was created. That's pretty cool. This already looks a lot better than the information command that we had before, which looked something like this. Now, there's a few more things that we can actually do. If we close our console and go to Visual Studio, you can, for instance, also choose to add a color to your embed. You can do this by saying .with color. In here, you need to provide a new color and then the red, green, and blue values of the color. You can simply do this by using something like a color picker and convert a hash to RGB. What I will do is open up my browser where I have my logo of Watermelon, grab my color picker, pick the color that I want to have, which is this nice reddish color. Then I press my color picker over here and I grab the RGB value over here. Then I go back to Visual Studio and paste that over here. Now, if I were to run the bot again, and I were to go to Discord and run the info command again, you can see that the color of the embed has adjusted to a nice reddish color matching Watermelon. Let me explain that color picker a bit more. Let's close our console and go back to our browser. What you can do is just search up color picker, which will usually just show you something like this. In here, you can of course pick a nice color that you like, all the way from R to green to blue, whichever option that you really like. All the colors are pretty nice. Now what you can do is you have a few values over here. The hex value, which is mostly used in, for instance, web development, but also in just programming in general, and the RGB value. Now, although you can use the hex value, although that would require some extra work, the best way to do it is just use the RGB value, which you see over here. It always consists of 3 numbers, one value representing the red value, the green value, and the blue value. You can then copy those 3 and put them over here, which will then give your embed a nice color on the side. Now, if we go back to our program, there's a few more things that we can actually add. We can of course add more fields, but another thing that we can do is say with thumbnail URL, which allows us to add an image to our embed. Let's add the profile picture, if someone has that one, or the default profile picture of a user. We do this by saying socket guild user .get avatar URL, but there's a thing, because sometimes people don't really have a custom avatar URL, but they just have a default profile picture. Therefore, if the get avatar URL is null, we want to use the null ternary operator, which allows us to say like, hey, if this value on the left is null, then we want to use the value on the right. So in this case, what we'll say is socket guild user .get default avatar URL. This way, if the user does not have an avatar URL, it picks the default one. So now, if we run our Discord bot, head over to Discord and run the info command, it will now display my profile picture. But if I were to run it on my secondary account, then it will return the default profile picture from Discord. That's pretty nice. Now if we close our console and just go back to Visual Studio again, we now have a pretty cool embed with a lot of cool things attached to it. There's more. For instance, you can add something like, hey, with a footer, which allows you to add a footer. And there's something called with current timestamp. And if we run that and we run the Watermelon command, this might be something nice to say like, well, hey, this was this long ago. Because if we now go to Discord and we say info, it will here now display when this happened, today at 10:19, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of things you can look around in and work out with embeds, which can be really nice. Now, at the start of this episode, I also said that we will take a look in something that's called themes for embeds. How do we add a theme so that we don't have to keep copy pasting these colors over? That would be pretty nice. We can do this by two ways. We can make a custom embed builder that always uses one specific color, or we can use a custom embed builder that allows us to provide a specific theme. Let's take a look into the first one, and later on in the season, we will convert it to the second one. To do this, we first start by right-clicking our project, pressing Add, and creating a new folder. We're going to call this folder Common. We call it this way to just indicate, well, hey, these things that we're using in here are pretty common throughout our application. They're not per se commands or something, but we do use them. They are important. We then right-click this folder, press Add, and press Class. Now what you want to do is give your class its custom name that in some way represents an embed builder. But because embed builder of course already exists, you want to come up with a custom name. Because I called the bot watermelon, I can just call this class a watermelon embed builder. Then hit enter, and now we have our own class where we're going to make our custom embed builder. Let's first, of course, fix some of the issues that style cop analyzers give to us by, of course, fixing them. And here we start by saying, well, hey, a custom embed builder with a theme. Now, of course, we have to declare the access modifier, but before doing that, we're going to make sure that this class inherits from embed builder, which means that all of the methods that embed builder has will now also be available within watermelon embed builder, but then we can extend upon it and give it some custom things. Now we go back to watermelon embed builder, hover over it, press the light bulb and say declare accessibility. Now what we can do is we can add some cool things. Now, because I mentioned that we won't really add any custom themes right now, so that you will have a picker between themes, we will do that later in the season. For now, what we're just going to do is that when you use this embed builder, it will automatically have the nice watermelon color. We do this by using the constructor. So we'll type in ctor, press tab twice, which will give us the standard constructor. Then what we can do is we can say this dot color equals, and then the color that we want it to have. Now, it might be even nicer to just simply use the this.with color method. And then we can go back to our general module, we copy what we have over here, go back to the watermelon embed builder and paste it over here. Now I'll quickly explain what will happen. If we now would apply the same method over here, and then we would, instead of embed builder, use watermelon embed builder, it will first run the constructor and go over here. Now within the constructor, we say, well, hey, when this object, so the watermelon embed builder, is constructed, you should run this, which means that whenever this is ran, it will set the color of the embed builder to our watermelon custom color. Let's fix the issues of style cop by removing the unnecessary things over here, and of course, giving the constructor a documentation, just like this. Now we save this, go back to general, and now what we can do is we can replace embed builder with watermelon embed builder. Now we use Ctrl period to go to the suggestions and say using watermelon.common, because we need, of course, the using directive so that we can access the watermelon embed builder. As you can see, there's no errors. And if I were to take away line 44, specifying the color and then run our bot, then when the bot's running, head back to Discord and run the info command again, you'll see that the color is still the watermelon color. And that's a really cool way of doing this. Now, later in the season, we will also take a look in how you can add custom themes to this, which allows you to provide something like, hey, dot with theme, and then you can add some custom themes, which are going to be very cool. That's it for this episode. I hope you've learned some cool things about embeds, and that you can start using them on your own. They're absolutely awesome. I would also like to remind you that the Coding with FAN community is hosting coding nights pretty regularly. Now, coding nights are basically evenings where I will be in a voice channel together with some other of our Discord members, and then we can talk about programming, send in requests so I can program something and share that with you, and basically just a nice and chill coding night, as we call it. Now, coding nights are for patrons only, but on the 14th of June, 2021, there will be a free coding night. Now, this is probably already passed as soon as the video gets online, but if you haven't already, you can always take a look at our Patreon page, become a patron, and join those coding nights. They are really, really cool, and you can already join them for just a single €1. To wrap up the episode, I would like to say a special thank you to Chen Halen, Nicholas Barclay, Malali von Pelt, Takashi98, Joyful Reaper, Femluck, Paintballer 007, Jay Freeb, Steve Mods, Run Free, and Jason Thompson. You guys are absolutely awesome, and thank you for becoming a patron. Have an amazing day, and I hope to see you all in the next episode.